Well, congratulations on separating yourself from the horde of dopamine zombies out there. Share this sacred knowledge with someone who still has a spark of curiosity left. Return tomorrow night when the digital cattle have exhausted their screen time. We'll be waiting with more forbidden insights.
Okay, so get this, neuroplasticity. It's not just a fancy word neuroscientists throw around,
Real.
to sound smart. We're talking about the brain's ability to rewire itself, to change its actual structure and function throughout our lives. It's like having a superpower we never knew about.
Yeah, it is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. I mean, for centuries, the prevailing belief was that the brain was pretty much fixed after childhood. But now, thanks to groundbreaking research, including studies published in Nature Reviews Neuroscience, which, by the way, is a big deal in the science world. We know that that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
The brain is constantly adapting, it's evolving, and yes, even rewiring itself based on our experiences.
I always thought you got what you got brain-wise, and that was it. But now it's like, hold on, maybe I haven't peaked yet. Maybe I have untapped potential just waiting to be unleashed.
Exactly. And the implications of this are huge. Not just for learning new things, although that's certainly a big part of it, but also for recovering from injuries, managing mental health, and even aging gracefully.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break this down for our listeners. The source we're diving into today uses this brilliant analogy of a garden to explain neuroplasticity. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So instead of thinking of your brain as this static, unchanging organ, imagine it as a vibrant, dynamic garden. The neural pathways. The connections between brain cells are like the pathways in your garden. And just like a garden, your brain needs care and attention to thrive.
So we're not just stuck with the brain we're born with. We can actually cultivate it, like prune the dead leaves and plant new flowers.
Exactly. Every time you learn something new, you're essentially creating new pathways in your brain garden. Every time you practice a skill, you're strengthening those pathways, making them more robust and efficient.
And I'm guessing those weeds we keep meaning to pull, those are the bad habits and negative thought patterns we need to get rid of.
That's a great way to put it. By being mindful of our thoughts, our actions, and the environments we expose ourselves to, we can literally shape the landscape of our brain gardens.
Okay, that's a pretty awesome image. But how does this actually work in real life? What are some concrete examples of neuroplasticity in action?
Well, one of the most fascinating examples is the case of London taxi drivers. They have to memorize this incredibly complex network of streets, landmarks, and routes. It's like a mental map of the entire city.
Which, let's be honest, sounds way more stressful than just plugging an address into your phone's GPS.
Right, but here's the thing. Studies have shown that all that spatial navigation actually causes the hippocampus, the area of the brain responsible for memory, to grow larger in London taxi drivers.
Wait, so their brains physically changed because of their job? That's wild.
It is, and it shows that our experiences, particularly those that challenge us mentally, can literally reshape our brains. And this isn't just limited to taxi drivers.
You're saying that learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, or even just trying to solve a tricky crossword puzzle can actually change the structure of our brains.
Absolutely. And the more we challenge ourselves, the more new pathways we create, and the more robust and adaptable our brains become.
This is making me rethink my whole Netflix and chill routine.
Oh.
Maybe I should swap out some of those binge-watching sessions for some brain-boosting activities.
I'm not saying you have to give up your favorite shows entirely, but incorporating some brain-challenging activities into your routine can have a huge impact on your cognitive health.
So it's all about balance, right?
Exactly.
Like maybe I can practice my Spanish while I'm folding laundry, or listen to a podcast while I'm going for a walk.
Exactly. Finding ways to integrate brain-boosting activities into your everyday life is key.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling inspired to up my brain game. But before we dive into specific strategies, I want to talk about the bigger picture, this whole concept of neuroplasticity. It's pretty revolutionary, right? I mean, it changes our understanding of what's possible for us humans.
It is a paradigm shift for sure. For a long time, we thought our brains were basically set in stone after a certain age. But now we know that that's simply not true. We have the power to shape our brains throughout our lives, which is incredibly empowering.
It's almost like we're all walking around with these untapped superpowers, just waiting to be unlocked.
Exactly. And the more we learn about neuroplasticity, the more we realize just how much potential we have to improve our cognitive abilities, enhance our well-being, and even overcome challenges that were once thought to be insurmountable.
This is starting to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Like, are we talking about rewiring our brains To become superhuman?
Well, maybe not superhuman in the literal sense, but the potential is there to significantly enhance our cognitive abilities, to learn new skills faster, to improve our memory, to become more resilient to stress, and even to recover from brain injuries in ways that were once thought impossible.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. Let's dive into some of those specific applications. For example, you mentioned recovering from brain injuries.
Yeah.
How does neuroplasticity play a role in that?
So in the past, the thinking was that if you suffered a stroke or traumatic brain injury, the damage was basically permanent. But now, thanks to our understanding of neuroplasticity, we know that the brain can actually rewire itself, creating new neural pathways to compensate for the damaged areas.
So it's like
Yeah,
the brain can reroute traffic around a road closure.
that's a great analogy. And this is what rehabilitation therapies for brain injuries are all about. Encouraging the brain to create those new pathways, to relearn skills,
Yeah.
and to regain lost function.
So even in cases of severe brain damage, there's hope for recovery.
Absolutely. Of course, the extent of recovery depends on many factors, including the severity of the injury, the individual's age and overall health, and the type of rehabilitation they receive. But the potential for the brain to heal and adapt is truly remarkable.
This is giving me so much hope for people who have suffered from brain injuries. It's like there's a light at the end of the tunnel that we didn't even know existed before.
It's truly a testament to the brain's resilience and its incredible ability to heal and adapt.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little closer to home for most of us. Learning new things. We all want to be lifelong learners, right? But sometimes it feels like our brains just aren't as sharp as they used to be. Can neuroplasticity help with that?
Absolutely. In fact, learning new things is one of the best ways to stimulate neuroplasticity and keep your brain healthy and active.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
Exactly. Just like physical exercise keeps your body in shape, mental exercise keeps your brain in shape.
So what kind of mental exercises are we talking about? I'm guessing Sudoku and crossword puzzles are good, but is there anything else?
Sudoku and crosswords are great, but really anything that challenges you mentally can be beneficial. Learning a new language, picking up a musical instrument, taking a dance class, even just reading a challenging book. All of these activities can stimulate neuroplasticity and keep your brain sharp.
Okay, so the key is to keep learning and challenging ourselves throughout our lives.
Exactly. The more we use our brains, the stronger and more adaptable they become.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to aging. Instead of dreading getting older, maybe I should be embracing it as an opportunity for continued growth and learning.
That's the spirit. Aging doesn't have to be about decline. It can be about growth, expansion, and continuous learning.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed. It's like there's so much potential. But where do we even begin?
That's a great question
Mm.
and a perfect place to take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into some practical strategies for harnessing the power of neuroplasticity in your everyday life.
Sounds good.
See you in a bit.
Okay.
Welcome back to our deep dive into neuroplasticity. The brain's incredible ability to adapt and change. You know, it's like that time. We tried to bake that elaborate cake for the office potluck. Total disaster, frosting everywhere. But we learned from it.
Oh, are we still talking about the Leaning Tower of buttercream? Some things are best left forgotten.
Hmm.
But you're right. Even those frosting-covered mishaps can rewire our brains, right?
Exactly. We're not just talking about avoiding kitchen catastrophes here. Every experience, every challenge, every bit of new information we encounter has the potential to change the physical structure of our brains. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity.
So before the break, we were getting pumped about all the amazing things neuroplasticity can do. But I think we left our listeners hanging a bit. How do we actually put this superpower into action? Where do we even begin?
Well, first, I think it's important to remember that neuroplasticity isn't some magical switch you flip on. It's an ongoing process, a lifelong journey of cultivating your brain garden, so to speak.
So no brain-boosting smoothies or miracle supplements we can just chug down. Darn. But I like the garden analogy. It implies that we need to tend to our brains, give them the right nutrients, the right care.
Exactly. Just like a garden needs sunlight, water, and good soil to flourish, our brains need stimulation, nourishment, and the right environment.
Okay, so what are some practical things we can do to create a thriving brain garden? Give us the dirt, so to speak.
Well, one of the most important things is to keep learning new things throughout your life. And I'm not just talking about formal education. It's about being curious, exploring new interests, challenging yourself mentally.
So ditch the mindless scrolling and pick up a new hobby instead.
You know, I've been meaning to take up pottery. I hear it's very zen.
Oh, that's perfect. You can make us all mugs with team neuroplasticity on them. But seriously, how does learning new things actually benefit our brains?
Learning forces your brain to form new connections between neurons, strengthening existing pathways and creating new ones. This increases cognitive flexibility, making your brain more adaptable and resilient to change. It's like creating a network of well-maintained roads in your brain. The more roads you have, the easier it is to get around and avoid traffic jams.
Okay, so learning is like building a superhighway in our brains. What else can we do to keep those neural pathways buzzing?
Well, another key ingredient for a healthy brain garden is mindfulness and meditation.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that. But honestly, sometimes meditation feels like a chore. How does it actually help our brains?
Mindfulness and meditation practices have been shown to literally change the structure of the brain, particularly in areas related to attention, emotional regulation,
Yeah.
and self-awareness. They can actually strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function and decision-making.
So it's not just about feeling zen for a few minutes a day. It's about actually building a stronger, more focused brain.
Yes, it's about cultivating a state of present moment awareness, which helps to calm the nervous system, reduce stress, and improve focus and concentration.
So next time I'm feeling stressed out, maybe I should reach for a meditation app instead of that pint of ice cream.
Well, maybe not instead of the ice cream. But incorporating meditation into your daily routine can be a powerful tool for managing stress and improving your overall well-being.
All right, meditation check. Learning new things, double check. What other gardening tools do we need for our brain gardens?
Don't forget the importance of physical exercise.
You're killing me. I knew that was coming. But seriously, how does moving our bodies benefit our brains? I mean, besides the obvious endorphin rush.
Exercise is not just good for your body, it's a brain booster. It increases blood flow to the brain, bringing in oxygen and nutrients that are essential for healthy brain function. It also stimulates the production of BDNF, which is basically fertilizer for your brain cells.
Okay, now that's an analogy I can get behind. Brain fertilizer. I like it. But wait, what exactly is BBNF again?
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, is a protein that promotes the growth and survival of neurons. It's like miracle grow for your brain cells, helping them thrive and make new connections.
So it's like a superhero for our brain cells.
Exactly. BDNF helps to protect your brain cells from damage, enhances synaptic plasticity, and improves learning and memory.
Okay, I'm convinced. Time to dust off those running shoes. But before we get too carried away with all this brain-boosting talk, I want to address the elephant in the room. We've been talking about neuroplasticity as this amazing force for good. But I'm guessing it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Are there any potential downsides?
That's a great question. And it's important to acknowledge that neuroplasticity isn't always a positive thing. Just like a garden can be overrun with weeds, our brains can be shaped by negative experiences and unhealthy habits.
So it's a double-edged sword. We can rewire our brains for good, but we can also rewire them for bad.
Exactly. It's all about being mindful of the inputs we're feeding our brains. For example, chronic stress, lack of sleep, and poor nutrition can all have a negative impact on neuroplasticity, making it harder for our brains to adapt and learn.
So basically, self-care isn't just about pampering ourselves, it's about protecting our brains.
Exactly. Taking care of your physical and mental health is essential for creating an environment where your brain can thrive.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's like everything we do, every choice we make, every experience we have is shaping our brains in some way. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is, and it really highlights the importance of being intentional about the inputs we're feeding our brains. Because ultimately, we have the power to shape our own brains, and by extension, our own lives.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. I'm feeling inspired to take better care of my brain garden and to start making choices that support my cognitive health.
That's great to hear. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Just like gardening, it takes time, effort, and consistency to cultivate a healthy and thriving brain.
I'm ready to get my hands dirty, so to speak, but I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface of this fascinating topic.
You're absolutely right. Neuroplasticity is a vast and complex field. And there's always more to learn, but hopefully this deep dive has given you a good foundation and inspired you to explore further.
I'm feeling a little thirsty after all that brain-boosting talk. What do you say we grab a cup of coffee and continue this conversation? All right, I am back and ready for round 3. Of our neuroplasticity deep dive, we've covered a lot of ground, from like the science behind how our brains rewire themselves, to the practical ways we can cultivate those neural connections.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. We've explored the brain garden, learned about the wonders of BDNF, our brain fertilizer, and even touched upon the potential downsides of neuroplasticity.
It's funny. Before this deep dive, I thought of my brain as like this fixed entity, like a computer with a set amount of processing power. But now I see it as this dynamic, ever-evolving organ, capable of growth and change throughout my entire life.
It is a profound shift in perspective, isn't it? And it opens up a world of possibilities for personal growth and transformation.
Absolutely. It's like if we can rewire our brains to overcome challenges, learn new skills, and even recover from injuries, what else can we do?
That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. It empowers us to take control of our own cognitive destiny. We're not just passive passengers in our own lives. We're the architects of our own brains.
Okay, I'm feeling all sorts of philosophical right now, but
Yeah.
let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. For our listeners who are ready to start flexing their neuroplasticity muscles, what are some practical steps they can take?
We've touched on several strategies already. Lifelong learning, mindfulness, physical exercise, creating a supportive environment. But I think the most important thing is to find what works for you. Experiment, explore different activities, and pay attention to what feels engaging and challenging.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. Just like a garden, every brain is unique. What thrives in one brain garden might wilt in another.
So maybe my brain thrives on learning languages, while yours prefers to rock out on a guitar.
Precisely. It's about discovering what lights up your neural pathways and pursuing those activities with passion and curiosity.
And Vassing, it's not about being perfect, but about embracing the process of learning and growth.
Absolutely. Mistakes are part of the process. In fact, they're essential for brain growth. When we make a mistake, our brains have to work harder to figure out what went wrong and how to do it better next time.
So those moments of frustration when we're trying to master a new skill, those are actually signs that our brains are working,
Yeah.
that we're making progress.
Exactly. It's like those sore muscles after a good workout. They're a sign that you've challenged your body and it's getting stronger.
Okay, I'm starting to see the beauty in the struggle, but let's be honest. Sometimes it's hard to stay motivated, especially when we're busy and life gets in the way. Any tips for staying on track? With our brain-boosting goals,
Well, one thing that can be helpful is to set realistic goals and break them down into smaller, more manageable steps. Instead of trying to learn a whole new language in a month, maybe start with a few basic phrases or vocabulary words each day.
so it's about consistency and building momentum, rather than trying to do everything at once.
Exactly. Small, consistent efforts over time can lead to significant changes in the long run.
And I'm guessing it's also important to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Absolutely. Acknowledging and appreciating your progress, no matter how small, can help you stay motivated and on track.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on learning. I used to think of it as something I had to do, but now I see it as an opportunity to grow, to expand my mind, to literally reshape my brain.
That's the power of neuroplasticity. It reframes learning from a chore to an adventure, a lifelong journey of discovery and transformation.
I love that. A lifelong journey of discovery and transformation. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. It's been a pleasure diving deep into the fascinating world of neuroplasticity with you.
And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as we have. Remember, your brain is an amazing, adaptable organ with incredible potential for growth and change. So embrace the power of neuroplasticity, cultivate your brain garden, and keep those neural pathways buzzing.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring the boundless possibilities of your brain.
Well, congratulations on separating yourself from the horde of dopamine zombies out there. Share this sacred knowledge with someone who still has a spark of curiosity left. Return tomorrow night when the digital cattle have exhausted their screen time. We'll be waiting with more forbidden insights.